Hi everyone, I'm Vito. I'm the founder here at Atarim, and today we have Alan from Seahorse, and we're going to talk about his experience running an agency, as well as growing from an agency to a product that is now being run by thousands of websites throughout the world. Partnerships with AWS, really interesting concept, and we're going to see how implementing Atarim within his agency allowed him to drop 75% or drop the workload that he had to deal with to a third, and that took him only 1 week to accomplish as soon as he implemented the system. So 75% down within a week. That allowed him to focus on a lot more on his product, and basically the goal was to make the agency more of a side business than the main business. But the problem that it was kind of like in the middle of the entire storm, as a lot of us are sometimes. So how are you doing, Alan? How are you feeling today?
Good, Vito. Thanks for taking the time to let us share our story.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for joining me. And so let's start with just kind of learning a little bit about you, Alan. Who do you help? How long have you been doing this?
We would be, I suppose, termed WordPress developers for about 10 years. We would have dabbled in plugin development, but generally we found ourselves as WordPress became the dominant force of the CMSs on the web, as it is even more so now. We kind of found ourselves in a position where we were, I would call it, managing WordPress sites. We were WordPress webmasters, so day-to-day edits, minor customizations, and if anything, we got into a position where we couldn't really manage the workload. I would say we possibly couldn't make it viable, and I think that had Atarim as a solution been with us earlier, I think the direction of our business may have went slightly different. But that's the general run of things.
I think it would be the same for me as well. Like running an agency is not easy, especially when you are the person right in the middle of everything that is happening. So you got to be the guy that is distributing all the stuff, and yeah, that is really our goal. So better late than never. So what did you say? What did you say is would be your uniqueness, or what is really special about the work that you did within the agency, or when you were running this as a more of a care plan business? It sounds right.
Yeah. Well, our USP was the fact that we're also, or we have been since 2014. We've been AWS partners. So
Right.
we were very much in a unique position where we could offer cloud engineering and WordPress support, and that's where we eventually came to. You mentioned at the beginning that we moved towards a product, and that is because of that, the fact that AWS began to recognize us as WordPress specialists who operate on AWS, and that's actually quite a niche offering. So yeah, like again, we could offer something, but we didn't have we would find that the WordPress work, as in the development and the management of the care plan, as you called it, is very time consuming. It's much more time consuming than our cloud engineering. Our cloud engineering is highly specialized, but as it's not terribly labor intensive. It was the administration of that labor on the WordPress side where we were struggling, though. And
so that brings me perfectly to the next question, because I'd like us to try and describe the beginning. What were you doing before you started using Atarim? How did the day-to-day look like?
It was a mess, to be very truthful, Vito. It was a mess. We would have Slack Trello, Assembler, multiple project management tools, none of them really doing what we want. I mean, Slack is a terrific tool as a means of managing through communication. But the difficulty that we would have, and I'm sure many of Atarim customers would say the same thing, is that it's the accuracy of the request from the client, and then
Right.
the ability of the developer to absorb that. So where I found myself in the middle, like we're a relatively small company, we still are, and we've two directors that were finding themselves spending time managing minuscule requests, doubling the workload by our part in the process, when really it should be raised by the client, dealt with by the developer, and then we move on.
Right. So,
Mm.
how would you describe those problems that you're experiencing? What kind of made you identify them, or how did you kind of like flag them for yourself when you first got into this game?
Um, I went through an exercise with an external body to do a productivity, and and this is actually possibly 6, maybe 8 months before we adopted Atarim. So we knew after going through that process where the the productivity, the misuse of time really is more what it was rather than productivity. Like, we were getting the work done, but what that process identified was that there was too much time being spent by the more senior people in the organization doing
On the
tasks that,
minuscule stuff.
yeah, exactly. And so I have to say that even at that point, we still didn't we didn't know what the solution was. Like, yes, if somebody sat us down and said, what do you want something to do, we could have described it, but we hadn't found immediately after that a solution
Right.
until we discovered Atarim.
And so, how did you feel about, like, how would you describe your frustration, the other director's frustration when you were dealing with those tasks day to day, especially after you already understood that what you're doing is not where your time should go to?
It was quite clear when we began to miss targets on the launch of our product. So it had a direct impact on the product launch. It had a direct impact on the product development. It's probably worth. I mean, it's not. I would say it's not. It is worth mentioning to say that, like, personally, yeah, I'm a developer. I don't want to spend my time doing administration. I don't think any developer does. Like, if I had a choice, I still don't get to spend enough time being a developer. But I've made my peace with that. But 2.5 to 3 hours a day on a menial task probably underestimates the task. I mean, this work needs to be done. There is some of the sites that we manage even now are still, they're very busy. The work needs to be done. It's not underestimating the work, but there was extra steps in there that were unnecessary, and that was frustration. So it was directly impacting the business, and it was impacting me personally.
So, Alan, did you try any other solutions? What was the kind of thought process trying to just clear out your day of all of these minuscule tasks?
We made several attempts at existing solutions and trying to modify them to suit the need, and
Right.
we didn't find that. I referenced Slack earlier, and as a solution, it's invaluable to us. That's without doubt. But we were trying to use it in a way it's not designed for, and it's more loss of time trying to customize something to suit a need that wasn't applicable.
And I think
Even
this
Mm.
This is something that happens a lot in our industry. It's kind of interesting to know that that a standard website project usually goes between 7 to 15 different tools to just get the job done, all patched up together. Like as you're mentioning, from Slack to email to project management to spreadsheets to Google Docs to Zoom calls to like a whole bunch of additional things. Because I found that it's because we're technical people, we try to throw more technical solutions on the problem until something sticks, but it just creates more entanglement, more mess, basically.
Exactly. And I think the final straw for us was when, with all of these customizations and a lot of time spent trying to streamline a process, we started to reintroduce Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
That's when I knew. That's when I knew we needed to search the internet a bit more.
So that brings me perfectly to my next question. How did you hear about us?
WordCamp.
Right. So we met
So
at WordCamp, right?
we did meet, and we were both in the early stages of product launch. I think certainly you were much when I say the early stages, you were certainly much more progressed than we were. But it was kind of we weren't at WordCamp in Berlin. That wasn't on our task list. So we met and we had a chat, and I have to say, even then, it didn't fully register that the person that we were talking to at WordCamp Berlin 2019 had the solution we were looking for. But
Right.
eventually, we came to our senses.
So what kind of got you there? What intrigued you to start exploring and start implementing?
Purely a need. I can't. I can't stress that enough. Like, we just had a need, and for adopting software, like, if the need is great enough, I don't think that the other I don't think you push aside the obstacles. So
Right.
we needed something, and if Atarim didn't work, we would have had to go searching again. To be
Right.
truthful, we had to find something.
Okay, that's cool. And then when you started implementing, what did you start seeing? How was what were the results that you started experiencing when you started working with the system?
The most within on the first day of adopting something, we seen the result of the response from our clients telling us that this is great solution, because um, I would say that the idea that um, we we had come to the point where we were probably overloading our clients with different solutions to communicate with
Right.
us, and none of them, as I mentioned, none of them were suitable. So then suddenly they had one where they could pick a point on a page, say, I want to make this edit here. It was so easy for them to use that was the first thing that from our side we were able to say, okay, this is great. Um, like at the top of the recording, you mentioned how much or how quickly we managed to reduce, myself and co-director, how quickly we managed to reduce our involvement, our time involvement. Um, we didn't know that immediately. Obviously there was a review period before we could say how much that we'd taken out. I was aware of it. I mean, I was much more satisfied at the end of day one than any day previous. But um, the 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 most and that continues. I mean, when we introduce a client to Atarim, almost always there's a comment in there as the first ticket or the second ticket, as we call them, raised, to say this is great, compared to the other methods. So that's if your client is happy, then that's the most important
Right.
element.
And it just made the process, it removed all of those layers of complication that were introduced by all of these multiple tools and trying to get them through those learning curves. I guess this is really was the objective from day one when we created this for my agency. Just because when we were working here in London, we were mostly serving charities and nonprofits here in the UK. And I don't know if you know, Alan, but the average age of a trustee of a charity is 74 years old. So we were dealing with
Right.
74 years old on a
Mm.
daily basis, trying to provide digital services and website builds and digital marketing and all those kind of stuff. So you can imagine our frustration as well as theirs, trying to explain stuff to your grandpa, to your grandma. So we built it. It was designed to serve these types of people from the get-go. Said if they can work with it, anyone would be able to, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the key thing. I mean, if it served the purpose of of reducing our administration time, that would be a massive plus. But it wouldn't have been the solution if it wasn't, acceptable to the client,
Right.
because ultimately that's what the objective here is that a happier client. We're streamlining a process, and part of that is making the process easier for the client as well as for ourselves.
Okay, that's awesome. And so after implementation, after some time has passed, and you started realizing the impact that was happening on your business, how would you describe it, or how did you feel? Where did you see this being improved in your business, in your life? What areas were kind of improved by implementing the platform?
Well, I mentioned that we had run through a process of analyzing our productivity and our application of our time. So we had a sort of we knew in theory where we could be if we could
Right.
start to streamline a lot of these processes. So the the tools that we were using to record that time, suddenly the target time to apply to our product, we were meeting them and exceeding them targets, I would say. So
That's awesome.
not only were we, I think there's probably an element of, if you feel you're doing something that is unnecessary, you get a bit resentful of it. And maybe over time we were even slowing down. Like, I mean, yeah, we were getting the work done, but we knew there had to be another way. And the fact that, the fact that chunk was taken out, but even what we thought we would get from it, we even exceeded that. So it meant that we could. The big difference being that I mentioned, we were missing product launch. Well, not necessarily launch, but product
Releases.
development targets, dates. And that, given that our particular product is a partnership with AWS, it just wasn't that wasn't cricket. So to start actually generally meeting them ahead of time from then on was a direct, direct impact of adopting the software. So yeah,
That's awesome.
it's quite clear to us.
And how about we tell us, like in a few minutes, about the product itself? What made you leave the agency model and get into Seahorse as a product rather than an agency? What do you do? How does this relate to AWS? I think that a lot of the people that are watching this might even benefit from this type of product.
Yeah, I think it may seem from watching this that I'm constantly just trying to get away from menial tasks.
Right.
If I was to summarize, that's what the product actually came from. I mentioned that we have been recognized as a WordPress expert within AWS. So we're a referral partner for WordPress projects for AWS. we found that the vast majority of really the move to cloud is only in the last it's really only the last 5 to 6 years, and
Yeah,
even in the last 2 to 3 years where
started going like this.
yeah, exactly, and that's because it's more accessible to small to medium enterprises, where it was even 2015, 2016, much larger companies only. But
Right.
um, we began to find by 2018 that architectures that were not terribly complex, we would find ourselves spending an inordinate amount of time on what was a repetitive process. So we did some market research, and we concluded that for WordPress customers specifically, they want the WordPress managers want to maintain control. They want to move to a cloud provider, and AWS is the most desired among the main cloud providers. Um, but the vast majority don't have in-house cloud expertise, or they don't have possibly the need to
Right.
outsource that
Higher fund.
cost. Yeah. So what we came up with was the Seahorse software, which is a migration tool. It's a plugin for WordPress. So a clone tool is possibly a better description, and the names that we call it is something that will probably continue to evolve, because there's what we do see is that, naturally enough, somebody that has one site, it's a production site, and they hear, running a migration process on the production site can be a bit of a concern if something goes wrong. It's actually a clone process, so
Right.
nothing actually happens on the website. They put in their license, they run through a process which transfers content to AWS and builds the instance in the background, and configures the instance and sets it up for SSL and DNS configuration. So the whole thing should, a large site would be 18 minutes.
Awesome.
An average size site is around 11 minutes. The process should be complete.
So basically, the idea is to take a website from one of the bigger or one of the hosting companies that is hosted in there, and place it inside AWS by cloning it first to your side, and then moving it over to the users, to the agency owner or the customer's AWS account. Right? It's like a
Yeah, well, the cloning process. So we offer a trial process which clones to our own AWS Seahorse environment. So that's where the trials are placed, and they run for 36 hours. But when a user runs this
when
as a
it just bounces it straight, right?
it goes straight to their own
Right.
AWS account. So that's identified through their IAM keys, which they enter as part of the process. And there's obviously there's tutorial guides to talk people through, but our own demos, we can't do it any quicker than 11 minutes. So people are obviously following the guide to the letter.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with this in mind, thinking about the product or the time that it freed up for you to build your product and get into this game, as well as the time that you don't need to invest anymore, but still keep running the business as more of a side or kind of a half passive income or third passive income type of business. How would you quantify the ROI on starting and implementing Atarim within your agency?
Sorry, could you just repeat that, Vito?
Yeah. With this in mind, with what it allowed you to do for your own product, as well as the time that it reduced you to, the time involvement that you had to put in within your agency, how would you quantify the ROI, the return on your investment, when you first joined us?
It's I mean, we probably should do some sort of statistical analysis to find out. We could we could identify a figure for this, Vito. We could, and it is significant because yes, there is. It allowed the business to grow in another direction. That's for definite. But it would be like day to day we still manage a lot of sites. Okay, we don't take on new sites, but we have a lot of long-term clients that are launching sites all the time, and we now have a crossover because now that they can I'll give you an example where we have one client which has over 300 WordPress sites.
Right.
Not an agency. It's a company that has 300 sites. So they're launching them all the time, and they used to work on the basis where they would have their own in-house developers. They develop locally, and then they had no way of migrating to AWS. So now they use our Seahorse software,
Right.
but once the sites are live, we have a long-term relationship, and hopefully that continues. And part of that, and a significant part of that, is the day-to-day WordPress management. So all of the WordPress management, once they use our product to migrate, all the work that's applied there is WordPress management, and so it could. I don't know, to be truthful, off the top of my head, what percentage of the business that still is, but it's quite significant. We may not be taking on new clients for WordPress development, but we still do a large amount from existing clients. So I couldn't give a figure, but there's the thing that stands out for me more so is it gave us the ability to develop the product. And a year from launch now in October, we're in a really good place with the product. That wouldn't have happened without changing the model with the introduction of Atarim. But yeah, if we do this, if we have this chat in a year's time, or even less, I definitely we would be the type to investigate the stats, and I think I could certainly give a figure on percentage wise what that saving was. But as a comparative to the monthly fee, I can safely say that I feel we're getting the better part of the deal.
That's great. And so because I know that now a lot of people that have stayed with us until now and learned a little bit about your journey, about how you implemented, about your product. I just want to kind of it seems like these people that are kind of on the fence. They are not sure if to pull the trigger or go for this. So I'm just gonna ask you questions to try and see what helped you make that decision, and hopefully this is gonna help to some of the viewers that are with us on this session. So
Sure.
why did you decide on Atarim and to pull that trigger?
Well, the fact that we had met meant that I'd met the founder of this product. That obviously was a feature. That's not going to be everybody, Vito. You're a friendly guy, but you're not going to meet everybody at WordCamp. Yeah, you probably give it a good try. But that where somebody might do a Google search and find Atarim, we had that introduction, so that's what got us to the point of looking. But we're on the business, so it's not the meeting somebody is not going to make that decision for you. We investigated the options as outlined on the site. It's very detailed. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I am pretty sure there was a trial period,
Right.
and like most, try before you buy is a huge incentive. We had, because of the fact that a week into the process, we were seeing results. There was never a case that we weren't going to continue after the trial period was over.
That's awesome. And who do you think this type of product is a good fit for? from people that might be watching, or from you knowing the industry pretty much as well as I do?
It's pretty broad, I would say. It's pretty broad. Like I think that, to me, there's more than just so. An agency to a person that works on their own and manages maybe 10, 12 sites might seem like, oh, an agency, that's a different category. I don't think that Atarim is not appropriate for a person that works on their own.
Right.
Possibly even more so, because so much of the time, that person's time is invested in these 10 to 12 clients, and particularly if they're, when I say 10 to 12 clients, they might be ongoing clients, but like a person that's on their own, maybe building sites. And to build a site with Atarim, aside from managing a site, is huge. But one area that I think that that tentatively I've started to speak to some of our clients about, when they're taken back. So a company that has a developer team
In-house, yeah.
in-house, over the course of time, we would be in discussions with some that we work with to say that, we think that you should take this management in-house. And we've started to suggest to our clients, or if they've already used it through us, they usually ask about it. But we would suggest to people that, here is a solution that's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of pain. And so, to answer your question, it's a pretty wide pool. I think that there's potentially anybody in WordPress management has certainly has use for this. And I'd say that anybody that is would turn themselves a WordPress developer and above has a need for it, I would say.
Okay, I love that. And with people that are watching us, the final question, people that are watching us right now, why do you think they should take action right now and just hit that button somewhere around this page?
Just to try it and you'll see. I mean, it's not. I can certainly understand from, as I explained earlier, most people watching this have probably using tools at the moment that it gets the job done. But if they analyze it, they will see that there is a huge unnecessary time loss here.
Right.
That Atarim can answer that. So, there is certainly, I think we've all been in the place where we try something the first time, and 24 hours later we say, how have we got to here never using this? That's how I feel about Atarim. That's how I feel about a few of the applications that we've adopted over the years. And yeah, I don't know how we survived without it. Well, we didn't. We got very, very stressed, and we had a huge loss of productivity. So yeah, just try it. Try it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for sharing your story, Alan, and I hope this is going to help and resonate with a lot of the people that are watching this video. Where can people learn a little more about you, about Seahorse?
The easiest thing is just to go onto our site, seahorse-data.com. There is some features about us on AWS Lightsail, but easiest port for any information is our site.
Awesome. Thanks again, Alan, and thanks for everyone that has been joining us on this session.
Thanks, Vito.